Webster Democratic Town, happy to host the annual Selectmen's Candidate Forum. As you can see, we've adapted to live stream due to COVID-19 restrictions. I am your host and moderator tonight. Tonight we will learn more about two of our three selectmen. Although all three were invited to participate, one of them declined, and we have Randy Becker and Robert Miller with us here tonight. We shared the format and the timing of the program tonight with the candidates ahead of time so that they could be adequately prepared. We are going to jump right into the forum at this point and ask the candidates to start with their opening statements. Mr. Becker.
Thank you, Leslie, and the Webster Democratic Town Committee. I ran 6 years ago against Mr. Miller as a way to give back to my community. This belief was installed in me and my wife of 37 years, Donna Becker, by our parents. They taught us that you should give back wherever and whenever you could. One of our favorite sayings is, whether it's your time, talent, or treasure, giving back can be one of life's greatest rewards. I've been blessed to grow up and live in Webster for all but 3 of my 60 years. Please forgive Donna and me for living in Dudley for 3 years after we were married. Today, just like 6 years ago, I'm running for selectman while also serving on 5 other nonprofit entities. Some people thought I was crazy to run for selectman 6 years ago, and some think it's even crazier now. However, being a selectman provides me the honor to share my 30-plus years of corporate and management experience to help my community in a way that I hope has made Webster proud. I think our current Board of Selectmen has changed for the better, and I hope it continues to improve. I pledged to act in an oversight and guidance role and not get involved in the day-to-day operations of the town, and I believe I've been successful keeping that pledge. To be a good selectman, you always have to keep the best interests of the town at heart. I've done my best to do that and move Webster forward in the most positive and ethical way possible. A lot has been accomplished in the last 6 years. Much of this is due to our town administrator, Doug Willitson, and the incredible town employees that work with him. The past 15 months of COVID have especially tested the mettle of our town employees, and they have all risen to the cause. To mention some additional accomplishments, it was 6 years ago, in August of 2015, that selectmen discussed for the first time the construction of a new water treatment plant. That was 4 months after I won election in 2015. The town's financial condition is much better than it has been in decades. We have a Head Start program in the former senior center, providing needed care for Webster's little ones. Much progress has been made by the town's dedicated and caring opioid task force. We are blessed with progressive and community-oriented police department under Chief Mike Shaw. We've seen significant improvements from Memorial Beach to Main Street and a higher level of volunteerism and enthusiasm towards our town. I hope our citizens agree it's been a productive 6 years.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. And Mr. Miller, I'm sorry to interrupt. Before we go further, I should explain that we are able to be unmasked tonight because we have been vaccinated fully. Mr. Miller, please.
Thank you. And thank you, Leslie, and all the members of the Democratic Town Committee for inviting Mr. Becker and myself in this little forum. And I agree with a lot of what Mr. Becker has also mentioned about the water, we had wastewater treatment plant, we had some improvements. Also the water treatment and also what is ongoing in town as far as improvements. The departments I know are all dedicated, that I know, and I appreciate that. And I've been a lifelong member of Webster, and also past chairman and member of the Board of Selectmen for a number of years. I did miss one meeting that I think I took a vacation. That was a million years ago. I was past chairman of Webster FinCom, Personnel Board. I was a proud member of the ADA Commission, which has done a lot for the folks in town that are disabled. I've also helped to resolve the sewer situation with the town of Dudley, which I spent 5 years and was very successful in doing that. And also it was beneficial and successful for both the towns of Webster and Dudley, which were always brother and sister towns, and I'm very proud of that. I was also past chairman and currently on the board of directors of Life Skills, and also a former member of the board of directors of the VNA and Hospice of Southern Worcester County. And I'm also a member of the Webster Lodge of Masons, a 32nd degree Mason. I also belong to Worcester and Boston and Wilmington and the Shriners, and I'm also a member of the Sword of Bunker Hill. And I have a small business in town, and quite frankly, I was also instrumental in the expansion of Mount Zion Cemetery, which I got the price down in $100,000, and they did the excavating and so forth, which I figured was about another $100,000 for expansion. And quite frankly, I'm not going to get into too much. I also helped with the downtown when we got the dilapidated buildings in town to be auctioned off and or torn down. But the idea of it is to have them rebuilt and bought, rehabbed, and then put back on the tax rolls, which I'm very proud of. It's getting there. Slowly but surely, it's getting there. I have 15 seconds. I just want to say one thing. I'll try to keep my answer short. I'm amazed I'm saying this much. But I just want to say that my old boss used to say to me, he says, the more you say, less I believe you. That's what he always would say to me, and we worked fine. And he did hire me and keep me on. Thank you. Sorry.
All right, thank you. And we will alternate back and forth with
Absolutely.
answering the questions.
Thank
So the next question is, please tell us why you decided to run for the office of Selectman. Mr. Becker?
Thank you. I ran for office to help shape the future of our town in a positive and productive fashion. As mentioned, I thought my management experience could be beneficial in the Selectmen's main role of providing input on policy and guidance. To be perfectly honest, I was asked to run by the late John McAuliffe 6 years ago because of his concerns where the town was headed. Townspeople appreciate the relative harmony and progress we've enjoyed under Town Administrator Willardson's leadership. I want that to continue. Simply put, I'm running again even though I pledged to serve only 2 terms because no one else was stepping up to run against Mr. Miller. I was in fact asked to run again by numerous people in town that also expressed concern about a potential disruptive change to the Board of Selectmen. I'm concerned this town will be run very differently if Mr. Miller is elected. His style over 15 years as a former selectman is, to put it mildly, very different from mine. As noted when I wrote of the 2019 elections, I found Mr. Miller's management methods and past involvement in town operations to be unacceptable. A prime example was his backdoor bullying of Town Administrator Willardson, as noted in Doug's March 2019 performance review, rebuking Doug, among other things, for having issues with authority and resentful of strong opposition. The performance rating Mr. Miller provided was a -3 on a scale of 1 to 5. Writing about future goals, Mr. Miller noted, "Time is up, time to move on. I am very disappointed and tried to give the TA a chance." Mr. Miller's verbal rebuke to Doug was so loud I received 3 phone calls from employees, unrelated to me, expressing concern. Referencing the Board of Selectmen's ethics policy that I had authored, I urged Mr. Miller to apologize to Doug. Reluctantly, Mr. Miller did so and changed his review, but the damage had been done, or perhaps the message delivered. My point in bringing this up is to point out that style and personalities matter. Now is not the time to go back to the difficult days our town has been through. Like a train on tracks, the progress can easily and quickly be derailed.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
And the reason I'm running is as Mr. Becker had stated, that many times he had claimed that he'd be a two-term candidate and he believed in term limits, and that's fine. He can do whatever he likes. It is America. You can run as many times as you like, I would assume. So I decided to take out nomination papers, and I have the experience, both good and bad, with some ideas, and rely on the residents to help the town of Webster with even more ideas, and in conjunction with the Board of Selectmen. Everyone in 2020 has had a struggle one way or another, and I was no exception. Losing my son to cancer also humbled me. Maybe you can tell that I'm not as loud or boisterous or out of control as I was. And quite frankly, I look back, and now I'm looking forward respectfully. I did make some mistakes. I will admit it. I'll be the first to admit it. I haven't made just one. I've probably made several. in respect to what Mr. Becker said, I did make an appointment on that, and be that as it may, it's done, it's history. And one way or another, and I was no exception, stepping up and trying to be active with the town once again, new challenges, goals, objectives, and probably much more, but doing it in a humble look, not a boisterous look at everything. And I think the days of the outspoken are gone. And I will ask the questions, but I'll still ask the questions. Mr. Becker and I have not agreed on everything, but surprisingly, we may agree on most agenda items. And I'm not going to change any harmony with the board or rock the boat, so to speak. And at this point, that I do promise. And just do the business of the town of Webster and the residents of the town of Webster. And for the records, I've been a little concerned with the number of lawsuits against the town, and I'm just saying that maybe those monies, maybe Mr. Becker can also help, and the town administrator, neither one of us voted for him the first time around. He was the last one, and that's a matter of record. But be that as it may, and I will stop. Thank you, Rena.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
Why don't you go first this time? And the question is, what is your vision for infrastructure improvements in Webster?
Well, what's taken place in Webster is a great start, and I will not deny anyone that. And I think we still need to be a little bit more business friendly and inviting to even more new businesses. Cleaning up the town has started, and it is looking a lot better. Nuisance properties, etc. And a lot still has to be done. And just an idea, this is only an idea, that may be an incentive to those who are either here, those contemplating relocating here, whether it be business, homeowners, neighborhoods, or of course, services that Webster has to offer, now with the water being straightened out, continuing the water replacement of piping, the quality of the water, neighborhoods fixing up, and of course, time and money come into play. Perhaps some time schedule on unused property or for different projects or businesses might be a great idea. I think everybody's looking into that. And similar to we do have money raising buildings, or have been. I think we could also maybe do that for some neighborhood infrastructure. And I'm sure many of these ideas could come eventually to fruition. It's our home, it's our town, and we can get ideas at a livable price, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Becker?
Thank you. I've tried to spell out my vision for infrastructure improvements in the ads I put in the paper. First, I wanted to commend Doug Willardson and our dedicated department heads and employees for all the work that's taken place in our town, especially under the COVID conditions we've all been living through these past 15 months. I have to say we've made great strides in improving town water, finances, Main Street, Memorial Beach, citizen volunteerism, to name a few. My first infrastructure priority is to continue our work with the Water Sewer Commission on replacement of the highest priority pipes in town. We also need to closely monitor the newly required state testing of PFAS in the water supply. As noted on the town's website, the town is awaiting test results. If you're not aware, and you haven't read anything what's unfortunately been happening with Dudley, PFAS are a family of chemicals used in the 1950s till now to manufacture stain-resistant, water-resistant, and non-stick products. We also need to continue prioritization of the items in our capital plan, which is compiled by Doug and a group of town hall employees and then reviewed by the Selectmen. We need to continue the focus on economic development, including Main Street, North and South Main, Shaw's, Kmart Plaza as well. All this while listening to the concerns of our citizens. We will work with Doug, along with the Office of Community Development, Highway Superintendent, and the Water Sewer Commission, on how best to spend our Chapter 90 funding for street repairs. Lastly, I'd like to see a focus on formalizing our disaster or catastrophe recovery plans. COVID taught us lessons, like how to operate a town without access to town hall. Although the town dealt with this admirably, it exposed vulnerabilities that we have to begin thinking about. This brings up risk analysis, or what types of bad things can happen to our town and how we can prepare for them. I'm talking about things like an accident on the train tracks, cyber attacks, water supply interruptions, etc. We have plans for these, but we need to take time to understand them more fully. And if more resources, we need to devote to them. There's currently a $50,000 item on our 2022 town budget to help address computer security. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, again, we'll start with you. A lot of economic growth has happened in town recently. For example, there are new restaurants opening, we have dog parks, and the beach improvements. What do you see as the next phase, or how do we keep the momentum of that growth?
I think I screwed up my notes. But anyway, we'll try. Because I had encouraged committees, okay. But I think we're on the right track as a town, as residents, as different boards, as Mr. Becker has also mentioned. The TA, I think, has done quite a learning curve in the last 6 years and with the department heads. And as far as developing anything, it's you want to do a lot of things. But then again, with the COVID, which has been a terrible setback for everybody, it's kind of hard to do because the money is not there as we would like to. And we're spending it on different things, which you have to, just to survive. But I think, again, being more business friendly and so forth to the expansion of the town, the businesses especially, I think is a great thing. And I enjoy looking forward to going out to dine a little bit here and there and getting a little taste of, well, I said that years ago, and I went down to the town of Putnam and talked to the mayor, and I talked to a few of their people, and they gave me some hints. But the key was the state of Connecticut also reimbursed some of the businesses if they were still interested in expansion, which I thought was a great thing. I've never heard of that in Massachusetts, but that's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Becker, same question?
Thank you. It's important to keep up the growth momentum, which starts with a strong, skilled, and competent town administrator, an active economic development committee, a strong office of community development, and finally, a dedicated board of selectmen. We've been blessed with terrific people across all these positions. I want to publicly thank former Selectman Don Bork, who suggested the creation of the Economic Development Committee many years ago. We need to continue to work with local businesses, also through their associations and chambers of commerce, to engage their help and their guidance. Many of the items previously mentioned will continue to be worked on. I know, for instance, that Doug discusses ways to try to attract more business with the owners of Kmart Plaza and Shaw's Plaza, for instance. This all in spite of Amazon dominating the world of shopping. The next phase of growth entails continuing to work with the groups that I mentioned previously, while always looking out for the best interests of the citizens of our town. I also think we are seeing improvements in our schools, and that's an important factor in attracting new students and new business to our town. People and new businesses are what drive progress. We've been blessed to see new restaurants downtown and elsewhere. We've also been blessed to see our long-term restaurants coming back to life after COVID. Lastly, I think Doug and his team have gone out of their way in attracting and welcoming new businesses. We need to continue that open arms attitude that's been spearheaded by the Economic Development Committee and others. I believe to attract new businesses, the town needs to be welcoming and innovative, something being done the past few years, and something that needs to continue.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mr. Becker, we'll start again with you. What would you do to encourage more residents to participate in town government, boards, and committees for the betterment of the community? Do you feel there is a role that you as selectmen can play? Please be specific.
Well, the first rule of encouraging more residents to participate in town governments, boards, and committees is to lead by example. Although COVID has made volunteering difficult to do in person, technology has been our friend in keeping participation going. Part of leading by example is creating an environment where people feel welcome, feel their suggestions are meaningful, and will give due consideration. Seeing that members of boards aren't fighting with each other and are accomplishing things the best way of attracting new members. It's often said that if you want to make a difference, you need to become part of the solution. I firmly believe we have active volunteering in town now that we've seen, more now than we've seen in the past 10 years. Most of that is driven by people caring and seeing that things can be accomplished. If you have time, if you have a particular talent, if you can donate funds for a specific cause, please talk to someone. Please call me. Please call Doug. Please contact the chair of a committee you'd be interested in serving on. I'm proud, personally, of 3 of my family members who volunteer on several committees, including Personal Advisory Board, Library Trustees, Economic Development Committee, and the Redevelopment Authority. My specific suggestion would be to have a discussion at the Selectmen's meeting to try to make it easier through the town's website for citizens to inquire about volunteering. We could set up a mailbox by email where an interested citizen could inquire of a board chair as to what it's like on that committee and what the time commitment would be for that particular committee. They could discuss their interest in a particular board and see how their time, talent, and treasure matches up. Another aspect of volunteerism is that sometimes you have to stand up and fight for a cause. A recent example of this was the proposed solar farm on Upper Gore that was slated to install 15,000 solar panels on 30-plus acres of heavily sloped forest overlooking Webster Lake. Chad Pepin stepped up to fight this, with my assistance as a resident, not as a selectman. Fortunately, our planning board fought this project due to health, safety, and welfare concerns. Yes, the town was sued, but I'm happy to report Blue Wave Solar just last week dropped their suit. The solar farm in Upper Gore is officially dead.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Just shut this darn thing
Thank you.
off. I think Mr. Becker touched on the technology aspect. For many years, we've tried to encourage committees, and that's a tough one. We've advertised, we've done everything we possibly could as a board, administrators, both past and present. And you have to find probably somebody that's interested in a group, a special interest group they may have, to get them interested, to get them together with ideas, whether an improvement or an interest, to get them involved and to get together in a meeting and discuss their ideas. Few people complain about this and this or that, and there's always a complaint or two. We always know that. No matter who is there, there's always somebody that's going to complain. Well, instead of doing that, get involved. And when you get involved, there's always openings available, and do something to help your town. And that, through technology now, I think would make it a little bit easier. Some people are afraid to step forward or maybe even go into the town hall to discuss it. It all depends, but I think that would be a good start to maybe try to get people out there. Instead of complaining, do something about it. You got the power, and you can do that. And I'll yield any extra time, Mr. Becker.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm just checking with my team now. Have we had any other questions come in that have not been addressed? No, we are good to go. We will then finish with our closing candidates giving their closing statements. Mr. Miller?
Oh, thank you. I have the experience of being on the board, being one of 5 elected by you, the voters of Webster. And I have been honored and in the past, and would also with you in both good and bad times, which we've faced them together. When I received a call, I answered all residents with you with direction to the appropriate authority. I'd always go and see somebody, whether it be personal. I'm not one that is on the phone all the time, except for this. I'm sorry, that's business. That I apologize for. But I'd always be in the neighborhoods or the groups if they asked. I don't have all the solutions, don't claim to, but I try to always point them in the right direction as far as protocol would go. And we've been pretty good on that. At least I was very fortunate on that, to hopefully get them the right answer. And I'd also like to have the opportunity again to try to serve the town and work with the others, something I always wanted to do for our town. And I want to thank the Democratic Town Committee, I want to thank Leslie, I want to thank Mr. Becker. I appreciate this, and as you can tell, I probably mellowed a little bit, and I'm a lot more humble, and it was a heck of a lesson I had in 2020, and I'll let it go with that. But I would appreciate your vote on Monday, May 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Becker?
Thank you. Well, let me start off by saying it's been an honor and a privilege to serve as a selectman these past 6 years. I'm proud to currently chair a board that has such drive and dedication for our town and not themselves. The town has made incredible progress, especially the past 2 years, despite the impact of COVID. Webster has been adeptly managed by Mr. Willardson, with an appropriate level of oversight and guidance by the Board of Selectmen. Currently, the board understands and appreciates their power, yet their limited roles in government. The choice before Webster voters on Monday represents the stark differences between me and Mr. Miller. We, simply put, are like night and day. At least we used to be. We have very different management skills, management styles, and personalities. I believe a selectman's duties are very similar to being a member of a board of directors, whether a billion-dollar for-profit company, a small nonprofit company, or a business, like the town of Webster. Directors should not get involved in the day-to-day operations of their companies. That, of course, is the job of a CEO. In Webster's case, the town administrator. When asked by a citizen about an issue, I go directly to the town administrator and follow the chain of command. I don't take it upon myself to seek out department heads or employees, and don't seek to listen to employee complaints, instead directing them to follow that very chain of command. It's nearly impossible for a person to change their essential human nature, just as a leopard can't change its spots. Mr. Miller has indicated he has changed, and he professes on his Facebook pages that he can work with the current Board of Selectmen without any distraction and in harmony. The facts are different, at least for the past 15 years of being a selectman. Mr. Miller has proven that he likes to get into the details of the town operations. Mr. Miller's own quotes in the Webster Times 2 years ago when he ran confirm this, when he says, "I'm an in-your-face type of person, not politically correct." He says, "I love the one-on-one contact and like to see a situation and guide them to the right direction." On the other hand, I'm a known commodity. People have seen how I participate in selectmen's meetings, or as chair, how the meetings are run and how I comport myself. They see the questions that we ask how we challenge our town administrator in a professional and courteous fashion, even when we don't agree with them. People often say change can be a good thing. However, change should not come at the cost of destructive and self-aggrandizing, disrupting behavior. I appreciate the support of our voters. I hope through my record these past 6 years I've earned your vote for re-election. I certainly thank you, Leslie, and the Democratic Town Committee for putting this on, and likewise extend my thanks to Bob for his 15 years of service to our town.
Thank you. On behalf of the Webster Democratic Town Committee, I would like to thank both of you for participating tonight, even though we could not welcome an audience face-to-face. I think it's important that people know where you stand. We would also like to thank Brian Beckwith for his expert technology expertise and experience, and the fellow members of the Webster Democratic Town Committee for all of their hard work getting this event together. And lastly, we'd like to thank you, the residents, for getting involved. Please remember to vote on Monday, May 3rd. The polls are open at Town Hall from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. Your voice does matter. Good night.
Excellent.
Good night. Thank you.